Welcome to the Rising Tide Leadership Podcast, where each week we simplify the complexities of your leadership journey.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Rising Tide Leadership Podcast, where we aim to give you critical and easily applicable leadership concepts to help you along your journey. I'm your co-host, Scott, and I have the privilege of talking about life and leadership with the owner and founder of Rising Tide Leadership, Dr. Michael David Morales, a.k.a. Mo.
Hey, Scotty. Always good to be here talking about leadership. So let's do it.
Yes, 100%. And today we get to touch, on the topic of resilience. But one of the people, so I feel like throughout history, I should start by saying that there are so many examples of what we would consider resilience. But when I think of resilience, I think of Ari Dickey. And now, for those that don't know who Ari Dickey is, he was a former knuckleball pitcher in Major League Baseball and threw primarily for the New York Mets. That's where he kind of gained his fame. But his journey really actually to get to that point was just filled with roadblock after roadblock that really just called on him to be resilient. So back in 1996, where maybe some of our listeners weren't even born yet, but he was hailed as the potential number one draft pick. And this wasn't as a knuckleballer. So this was just overall pitching, hailed as the number one draft pick. And he was actually expected to jump straight into the big leagues. Was not really expected to spend time in minor leagues. However, his first physical that he got for major leagues actually discovered a significant issue. He was missing actually the main ligament in his elbow that helps stabilize the elbow. It's that one that they do Tommy John surgery for. And that ultimately, those results from that physical really just made teams turn away from him. He battled through a lot of adversity. And when he finally made his first debut, he gave up 6 home runs in 3 innings. And if you know anything about baseball, that's not a great first impression.
That's not good. That's not good, Scotty.
It is not good at all. Apart from everything going on with his professional baseball career, he also had a large amount of things going on in his personal life that he was attempting to navigate. There's actually a great book, and it's called Whenever I Wind Up. And in that book, Ari Dickey actually details the resilience that he had to call upon and the growth that really he needed to occur for him to achieve his success. And overall, his story of just growth and resilience is such an inspiration. I would highly recommend the book. Probably not on Mo's top 50. It's in Scott's, maybe not Scott's top 50, but it's a great book that I would recommend. But anyway, with that being said, Mo, let's dive into our first point. So as I kind of talked about above, resilience isn't just about bouncing back. It's about growing through what you actually go through. And so can you just go ahead and share your insights on how kind of understanding that resilience can fundamentally change the way that leaders approach challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. Resilience in leadership is, it's all about anticipating challenges, preparing to face them head on, and learning from the outcomes. Just like you gave a story about Ari Dickey. I mean, talk about adversity. That guy had to go through a lot, right? So it's the essence of growth mindset, which is viewing the setbacks not as insurmountable barriers, but as opportunities for growth and learning. And so today, Scott, our first point about being a resilient leader is this. It's all about understanding resilience. So think about the essence of resilience, Scotty. So resilience at its core, right? If we want to talk about what it is, it's the ability to withstand and adapt to and recover from adversity. Love that word, adversity. I think adversity makes all of us grow. So it's about facing challenges. It's about navigating through those challenges. It's about emerging as not unscathed, but strengthened, right? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? And so in the realm of leadership, resilience transcends the personal. It becomes the beacon that guides the entire team or organization. So a leader's resilience is not just about personal tenacity. It's about setting a precedent. So it's kind of a way of being that encourages and inspires others to persist, to adapt, to grow, and do all that, Scotty, not just within, but despite the obstacles.
Yeah, so you talk a lot about precedents a lot of the time. And of course, you talk all the time about obstacles. And so as leaders, then what really is kind of the important things that our leaders need to know about being resilient?
Yeah, the importance of of being a leader who is resilient. I'd say this: in today's rapidly changing business landscape, leaders are constantly confronted with uncertainties, from market dynamics to technological disruptions, global crises, all the above. So these challenges test a leader's mettle, not just in terms of business acumen, but more importantly, in their capacity to remain steadfast and forward looking in the turbulent times. So, resilient leaders possess a unique blend of optimism and realism. They recognize the severity of challenges, and at the same time, Scott, they maintain a belief in their ability and their team's ability to overcome them. So, this balance is crucial. So, leaders, this is what's going to foster an environment where challenges are acknowledged and addressed, not minimized or ignored. Because these kind of leaders become examples of what it means to be perseverant. It means showing your people that it's possible to confront reality head on and still hold on to, really, Scott, hope and determination.
Yeah, that really makes a lot of sense. And so when I think of perseverance, I know that sometimes you can be, take that quality, become so hyper focused on tasks and just narrow your vision. So then, to avoid that, really, how can our leaders um how can our leaders actually avoid that, I should say, to better serve their followers?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so think about this, leaders. Navigating business uncertainty and personal challenges is what you have to be about. Because resilience is it's vital in navigating business uncertainties. It's going to empower leaders to view setbacks not just as finalities, but really as temporary hurdles. So this perspective, if you can hold on to this perspective, leaders, it's going to be infectious because what do we talk about all the time? We talk about uncertainties. And if there's uncertainties, that's when leadership matters. And so when leaders model resilience, when they get knocked down, right, they demonstrate that while the path to success is rarely linear, meaning it's not a straight line, it's up and down all around, it's twisting in a pretzel. Persistence and adaptability can really help you get past even the most daunting obstacles. And so personal challenges often intertwine the professional responsibilities, add layers of complexity to the leadership role. So really, a resilient leader is going to use their personal trials as growth opportunities, right? Everybody talks about, hey, do you see this as a problem or as an opportunity? And Scott, that's how we have to really see things. We have to apply the lessons that we learn in our personal adversities, and then we have to shift those over and to help people into professional scenarios because we see those every day. Your people are going through adversity as well, not just in the workplace, but also at home. So there's really this is a great approach to resilience, right? Because it encompasses both the personal and the professional spheres and puts it together. And Scott, the best leaders are going to be the ones that can transcend just helping people at work, but help them become better people, just not at work, but also when they're away from work. And Scott, this is really what's going to make your organizational culture different from everybody else.
Mhm. That's absolutely great. So then let's say that I kind of understand this first point, then what would kind of that next step be? Like what strategies or practices would you kind of recommend for our leaders that are maybe looking to cultivate this quality?
Right. So point two is this. It's all about building resilience. Building resilience is probably one of the most multifaceted processes that you're going to encounter in the workplace because it's like strengthening a muscle, right? It requires consistent effort, the right exercises, and sometimes a little bit of guidance. And so let's talk a little bit about strategies, okay? So when you think about building resilience, you need to think about creating the essential habits. Leaders, are you creating essential habits and holding on to those? Because resilience starts with the individual, specifically with my habits, with your habits as a person, right? It's about habits which lead to a mindset. And so one of the foundational habits is this: reflection. Man, Scott, we talk about reflection all the time, right? I'm always telling people that's why you got to journal. That's why you got to think about things. That's why you have to remember so that you can learn from those experiences, because it's not about what went wrong and just mulling over that, but it's about constructive feedback and really giving yourself constructive feedback on the challenges and then gleaning from those lessons and insights. Because reflection, Scott, can be it's not just journaling either. Everybody's like, Mo, you're always telling me to journal. Yes, you should be journaling. But even more than that, it's about talking to trusted colleagues, mentors, coaches in your life, the men and women that really speak into who you are. And Scott, it's also about asking ourselves this question: what can I learn from this experience? Okay, that's the question you need to ask. Leaders, stop asking yourself, why did this happen to me?
100%. I know, just reading through our show notes and everything, that just in thinking about reflection, my mind immediately goes to, oh, what did I do wrong? And I think that that is such a common jump to make for leaders and for individuals, is looking back on situations, and rather than thinking about, okay, what can I learn from this? It's like, man, what went wrong? What
Yeah, I
what
mean,
did
think
I
about
do
this.
wrong? What could go better? So
Yeah, mindfulness, Scott, plays the crucial role here, right? It's not just a buzzword. It's about practice that anchors us into the present moment, about helping us mitigate the anxiety, the stress, all the things that come with the leadership challenges. We're not Teflon, right? These things are going to affect us. So mindfulness, Scott, can be as simple as taking a few deep breaths, right? We talked about that in an earlier podcast. Taking a deep breath, counting to 10 before. I mean, think about the difficult meetings that you have during the day, right? Well, practice a mindful walk or a mindful lunch, just on your own, maybe, because these practices help us develop a calm center, which we can respond to challenges more effectively rather than just reacting out of stress and fear.
yeah, 100%. And I know we've done, I think, an entire episode on mindset and mindfulness. So this is your cue for all of our listeners. Scroll down, find that episode. But can you maybe, for those that haven't listened to that episode, can you maybe get into a little bit more kind of about that mindset?
Yeah, definitely. So, Scott, a key shift is this: embracing the growth mindset, right? It's a belief that our abilities and our intelligence can be developed through dedication and hard work. So, leaders with a growth mindset see challenges as opportunities. There's that word again, to grow rather than just obstacles that cannot be overcome. The mindset encourages risk taking and learning from failure, which is really, Scott, the essence of resilience. And so resilience just isn't about the individual endeavor. It's harnessing support systems, mentorship, all the things. These cannot be overstated, Scott. You know me and mentorship and coaching. That's what it's about. No leader
Mhm.
is an island, right? We all need a support network. You're not going to build this on your own. You got to take people with you, right? The higher you get, the more you got to take people with you. That's what John Maxwell says, right? In 21 Laws of Leadership, he says the higher a leader gets, the more that he or she needs to have people alongside, because the journey just gets more difficult, slipperier, harder to climb the mountain, whatever metaphor you want to use. So mentorship is particularly valuable. Scott, you know me, I have mentors in my life, the men and women that speak into my life. I've been doing that for over 30 years now. And so, leaders, here's a question: who's a mentor that's helped you navigate through your challenges? Who's helped provide you the guidance and the reassurance of the difficulties that you have had to overcome? Because my guess is, hopefully, you've gone to somebody and that you have these kind of relationships, because those are the relationships, Scott, that are going to remind us that we're not alone in the struggles, but that we can successfully navigate these because people have gone through similar paths. So incorporating resilience, and really, it's a kind of training. We change that resilience into leadership development, and we can do that through programs. We can add it into the strategy of our companies or our teams, no matter how big or small. And think about this, leaders. If you were to come up with a program of resilience and strategies to be resilient in your company, it's really going to help your people recognize signs of stress, burnout, and the things that really affect your team. Because leaders, you have to be the one who helps your people be resilient and build those practices. And so These might include scenario planning, exercises that leaders can anticipate challenges or develop contingency plans. What do we do when this happens? Going through workshops. Scott, these are all things that Rising Tide does, right? We go into companies and we help them with these things because it's all about emotional intelligence. It's all about enhancing the leader's ability to manage their own space, their own emotions, and create support systems in these difficult times.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, we've all been through difficult times, so I don't think there's a single one of us that can't say that we have. But what are we supposed to do as leaders when it seems like things are just falling apart around us?
Yeah, Scott, this is where we really foster strong relationships and we just hold on to the good stuff, right? So leaders, who is it that you look to, right? And I'm not talking about leaders and mentors now, but I'm talking about kind of that support system that's on the same level as you, the people that you work with, the people that can help you build mutual support, because it's collective resilience, Scott, that not only helps the team navigate current challenges, but also strengthens it against future adversities.
So that kind of got me thinking in this age of kind of remote and or hybrid work. So how can our leaders build that support network without potentially actually having a physical location?
Yeah, that's why it's so important to have continuous learning, right? I mean, the landscape of leadership is changing constantly. It's evolving. What you did yesterday is not going to work for today. So leaders have to be voracious learners. They always have to be seeking knowledge, skills, perspectives. And Scott, this is, it can be through formal education, but also it could be, like I said above, workshops, seminars, informal channels, reading, podcasts, conversations, whatever it takes for you to engage with your peers in both your industry and even different industries.
Yeah, 100%. This just really seems like it's kind of that active, ongoing process, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and Scott, I mean, really, that really brings us to our third point today, because you can know all this stuff, but unless you are doing point 3, it's not really going to help you. And here's point 3 today, leaders. Point 3 is applying resilience. You can't just talk the talk, you got to walk the walk. You see, when we talk about resilience, it's not just a theoretical concept. It's something that we deal with every day. It's about lived experience. So let's consider the story of Nelson Mandela, right? That guy is the paragon of resilience. So Mandela spent 27 years in prison, all right? And much of it was in pretty harsh conditions. But he always emerged not with bitterness, but with a vision for reconciliation and unity. And so his leadership led to the end of the apartheid of South Africa and inspired not just his country, but the entire world. And so Nelson Mandela's resilience, meaning his ability to endure hardship and emerge through everything for a greater purpose, serves as one of the great lessons in leadership. And it shows us that it's more than just challenging circumstances that can knock somebody out, but instead it can be transformative, like it was for Nelson Mandela. So, the moral of the story is this, Scott: if you have not read Nelson Mandela's book, A Long Walk to Freedom, move it up to the top of your list, because you got to read it.
100%. It is one of the books that I have read, so yes! I can say that I have. Yeah. Do you have any other maybe examples from your large book library that might be for our audience today?
I'm glad you asked, because I do. There's a great book that you need to read called I Am Malala, the girl who stood up for education and was shot by the Taliban. That's the name of the book. And how's that for a title, right? In it, we learn about a teenager at the time that was attacked for her advocacy for girls' education in Pakistan, right? Despite all these that attack and the ongoing threats to her life and her family, she continued her activism, and she became the youngest ever Nobel Prize laureate. And so Malala's resilience shows that leadership often requires standing firm in the face of adversity, advocating for change, and inspiring others to join your cause. Because her journey, Scott, illustrates how personal resilience can catalyze a global movement and change millions of lives. And so you got to get that book. You got to read it, because whether it's her, whether it's Malala, or it's about Nelson Mandela, those two examples, and there's a ton more, right, Scott? We got a ton on the top 50. Grab a copy of the list and just start reading, right? But these examples highlight how a leader's resilience impacts team morale and performance. And so when leaders demonstrate resilience, they face challenges with grace, they learn from failures, they persist in the face of obstacles, and they set powerful examples for their team. So this doesn't mean being superhuman. It's not about being something that is going to be better than everybody else. It's about being authentic. It's about being an authentic human being, right? Acknowledging that there's difficulties, and while we have those difficulties, we can still focus on the greater vision. So leaders like Mandela, Malala show that resilience can inspire teams to really tackle challenges and get a real renewed sense of purpose and determination. So Scott, so for instance, if you wanted to do this, right, if you wanted to be somebody who applies resilience, you would maybe communicate resilience, right? So how do we communicate the model resilience to inspire others? Mo, I get it. I want to be a resilient leader. I want to teach my people to be resilient. How do I do that? Well, here it is. And you're not going to want to hear this, leaders, but write this one down. It starts with vulnerability. You got to share your own stories of facing and overcoming challenges, because that's going to be really powerful to your people. It's about letting others see that we too have faced setbacks and we've struggled and we've continued to push forward, because authenticity builds trust and encourages others to share stories, and it creates a culture of resilience.
Just really quickly, do you ever think that there's a point where leaders can show too much authenticity or vulnerability?
Yeah, I think you really have to. You definitely don't want to just go to work and just start telling your whole story to everybody, but you do need to be vulnerable, right? I mean, you've got to demonstrate that you're willing to be open, you're willing to be honest. But I mean, I don't want my superiors, my supervisors, to come to me and tell me all their problems, right? But I do want them to show me that they're human, that they go through the same stuff that I do. So, I mean, really where you're at, Scott, you have to figure it out. So leaders, think about where you're at and how vulnerable can you be? I'll tell you this much though, if you can be more vulnerable, it's going to be a model of resilience for others. And it's going to encourage your team when you're vulnerable, right? When you're authentic. It's going to help your people to be authentic and embrace their challenges and really experiment and learn from their experience. And so, Scott, for our people out there, I would say this right here. If you want to promote resilience as a leader, you need to foster an environment of support and encouragement, right? That's key. You have to celebrate the small wins. You have to give constructive feedback. You need to encourage team members to step out of their comfort zones and contribute to a resilient team culture, because it's about creating a space where team members can feel supported and taking risks and know that their contributions are valuable.
Yeah, 100%. Like, man, I feel like we keep hitting on points throughout our podcast about just how leaders can just really transform their teams and organizations, and just how important just these almost small habits can be in just shaping those teams into potentially becoming more adaptive or more innovative or just cohesive units in general.
Yeah, and think about this. I mean, we talk about the stories about Mandela and Malala, right? And there's countless others out there. I mean, just pick up any book about a leader's journey, and they're going to talk about resilience, because we're inspired by people's personal journeys, because there's a collectiveness in all of us. We all want to be a part of that. We all want to celebrate those wins, right? We all want to be like, man, could I be like Nelson Mandela and spend 27 years in jail and just kind of forgive everybody? We want to know that we can be those kind of people. And that's why we're inspired by him, right? And so these kind of stories, when we hear them, even from people on our team, it's going to help everybody to achieve, not just for themselves, but really the entire organization. And it's going to just seep out into our communities. And so leaders, resilience isn't just a strategy for navigating adversity. It's really a catalyst for transformation and growth.
Yeah, you're 100% right. People love a good resilient story. I mean, if you just think about, blockbuster films like New York Times bestsellers, like a lot of those are stories about resiliency. But Mo, before we kind of conclude today, do you have any of your final thoughts for us?
Yeah, I'd say this. I mean, really, leaders, you really just have to embrace challenges as they come, right? Because if you want to be the kind of leader that understands resilience, that builds resilience and applies resilience, you need to know that obstacles are going to come, and they've got to be opportunities, right? They can't be setbacks. because that's going to create a greater sense of resilience, and it's going to contribute to leadership excellence. So remember, when you go out this week, it's not about avoiding the storm, but really, as you are moving into that storm, you got to learn, Scott, you got to learn to dance in the rain, man.
I can't say that I've ever actually danced in the rain. So
You got to do it.
well, thanks everybody for tuning into the Rising Tide Leadership Podcast. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Join us next time for more insights on becoming the leader who makes a difference. But until then, keep leading with purpose and passion. We'll see you guys all next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Rising Tide Leadership Podcast. Highlights and resource links are available for you in the show notes. We hope that you will join us next time as we continue on the leadership journey. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out, and share with others so they don't miss out. See you next time.